Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abbey,
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I'm your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you here. I'm happy to have you all here. All 500,000 of you. Because that's how popular I am. 500,000. I'm kidding, but I did hit a milestone in listeners. It's not 500,000, unfortunately. But hey. So today we are talking about a fun thing called worth and how sometimes you can feel as though your worth is attached to something that is changing, something that can be changed, when in fact it is not something that can be changed. It is like an inherent thing. Whether you believe it or not, fair enough, but I believe that, and I think it's just might as well believe that, because what good does it do if you believe that your worth is attached to something that changes? And I think this is a very common thing that everyone struggles with throughout their life, ups and downs with this. But sometimes all you need is just some awareness to it, and then you can start to not necessarily dissect, but sometimes if necessary, dissect why you believe that your worth is based in other things versus your inherent worth. And so we're going to talk about that. I will share a little bit about my feelings with that recently, and then some things to help. I really want to talk about the main 4 things that we get really attached to in terms of what makes us feel worthy or what makes us feel worth it. These are just my top 4 things. So this is not universal. There's a very long list of things that I could talk about that people think connect to your worth, and that's where you get your worth from, basically. But before we get into that, I wanted to share a couple life updates. I haven't done a lot of mental health updates as to where I'm at, or have I? I don't know. That's one of them, is I feel like I have really bad memory, where it's a little bit frustrating because someone will tell me something, 20 minutes later I will completely forget that they told me, and I know it's probably really annoying for other people. Imagine being in my head though, huh? Who cares about the other people? Imagine what it's like to forget everything all the time, and then people get mad at you and you're like, I just forgot. But I write stuff down now, and I've talked about that a little bit before, of how writing stuff down has really helped me. Wait, I think my camera settings are all janky. Hold on. And I don't think that has anything to do with OCD. I think that just is, I need to take better care of my memory. I need to eat brain health foods more, do more brain healthy activities. I do data analysis. I'm in the books, not the books. That's like accounting stuff. I'm in the sheets. I'm a freak in the Excel sheets. I didn't like that. But anyways, yeah, I think I use my brain a lot every day, but I think there's specific things that I could do to actually help my brain, what neuroplasticity or whatever would help memory. I've done no research in this. This is just something that I was thinking in as far as my mental health goes. Like, I'm not even talking about it's a specific mental brain health. It's just brain health, actually, not necessarily mental. So I need to work on that because that's important to me, and I don't. It's just not a good sign if I'm already that young. So it's stressing me out a little bit. I get a little bit of anxiety over that, specifically as to why I forget things so fast. Other than that, I've been pretty good mentally. So I have nothing really else to report, honestly. I've felt good weaning off my medication for my bipolar depression. So that's been going well. That's been nice. I think I've used up all my dopamine today. I'm feeling very low energy, and I don't want to do anything right now. But you know what? That's because all I listened to at work, and I wasn't listening to it all day, but it was for a good chunk of the day. Basically, I was listening to The Good Hang, or A Good Hang with Amy Poehler. her podcast, and she had Jack Black on. They're both hilarious. At the end, she talked about Peaches, the song from Mario Brothers that Jack Black sings. And so I immediately looked it up on Spotify and played the song and was listening to it probably 10 times in a row. So catchy. And I felt so, I was thinking how embarrassed I would be if for some reason my headphones because I don't use Bluetooth. I use a wire. I don't like something about Bluetooth, like with AirPods or whatever they're called, the ear pods, the air things, the Bluetooth ones, that freaks me out. Anything close to my head with 5G or anything, I don't know how it works, but I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. Everyone's probably confused as to why, as a 20-something-year-old woman, 27-year-old woman, I am using wired headphones versus AirPods. What are they called? Anyways, I would just be so mortified if somehow the wire got detached and all of a sudden everybody in my office could hear what I was listening to while I was just looked so monotone, straight-faced in Microsoft Excel, just looking at a bunch of words and numbers and stuff. And then what I'm listening to is peaches, 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 peaches. And I would probably throw up immediately out of just embarrassment. It's so vulnerable. Like, it would feel so vulnerable if everybody knew what I listened to at work. I mean, now you do, but you're not my coworkers. You know what I mean? I want you to think that I'm listening to classical, which I do listen to classical music sometimes when I'm working, which makes me feel smarter. And it does help me focus. So I normally listen to something more calming. Every once in a while, I listen to really fun, poppy K-pop anime openings. Today was like a Disney brain rot random TikTok sound Spotify radio station that I got turned on to, from Peaches to Fishy on Me, which I don't know where that came from, but I remember my little brother showed that to me when he was like, I swear, 10 years old. It's like, but fishy on me, fishy on me. And I listened to the whole song. Then what were the other songs? I have to find some of the songs I listened to so you guys understand the vibe. And I'm so quiet at work. I take a long time to warm up to people. I don't talk much, and so they're probably like, she's like so focused, so cool, calm, collected. But like what I'm actually listening to is everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Or there once was a down when I guys are down. Hold up, or another good one. How bad can I be? Other ones were Pokemon theme song, Gangnam Style, Super Mario Bros. Just like the theme song. There's the other one that's like dee dee da dee do do dee da dee do. I listened to that one too. I made sure I turned my sound down a little bit so that way no one even picked up the beat that I was listening to. Because again, it feels very vulnerable. I don't want people to know that I'm enjoying myself listening to this. But I think the best song that I found, because all these songs I had heard before, obviously. But this song is called Please Go Away by the Kiffness Alugalug Cat 2.0. I don't, if that's an offensive thing, I don't know what that word means, so hopefully that's not something bad, but it was the weirdest song I've ever heard, but I, again, listened to the entire song. So anyways, that's what I did for like the last 4 hours of my work day, because I was just sitting in the office freaking bored to tears, even though I had work, but it's just boring sometimes. And I needed to feel like alive. I wanted to feel alive. Here I am now. My dopamine is spent from listening to all of those songs that are very catchy. So I don't feel rewarded at all for recording this. And I probably won't. And I'm going to go on a run after, and I probably won't even be proud of myself after the run. Or, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to put that energy out there. Who knows? I probably will be. Could you just imagine, though, like I'm listening to dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-do-do, dee-da-dee-da-do, and then somehow my wire, like, I don't know, I do something dumb and my wire gets disconnected from my phone and it hits play, and then that's the song. Like, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, what the frick? How did that song get on? what the heck is this phone doing? So thank goodness it did not. But I think about that every time I'm listening to music. Anyways, let's get into the meat of today's episode, shall we? Okay, let's get for real here. So I am talking about the top couple things that we normally attach our worth to. And it's not fair. And it's not healthy. And I don't think it's accurate. And I really have been struggling with feeling worthwhile. A part of me knows that like I am worthy, and I don't know exactly of what that even means, but just like of happiness, I think, and feeling peaceful and happy and joyful. If we have that attached to the wrong things, then we never get to actually arrive to a place where we feel like our hearts are open enough to receive that. So jumping right on in, the number one thing I'm thinking of for me, and I think in general for a lot of women specifically, is that your worth is not tied to how beautiful other people perceive you as. Let alone your beauty is not even tied to that, because as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if there's anybody that is talking negatively about their own body or your body, all of that stuff obviously seeps into our mind. We hear it, our brain digests it, and if we're not on top of actively kind of cutting out that noise, it's going to be playing around in our brain, kind of in the back burner. So even if someone's not talking about our body, but if someone's talking about their own body, sometimes that still seeps into your own belief about yourself. I think it's just something that I know almost every woman in my life has struggled with this, and has struggled with feeling inadequate or not enough because her body or her face or something doesn't line up to what is trendy or beautiful right now in the eyes of, I don't know, Instagram or TikTok, or like people who are digesting and only watching things to please their eyes type of a thing. I think looking at beautiful things are great and that's awesome, but if it becomes more important than the actual beauty of a person's soul and a beauty of a person, that's when it can be damaging. And that's when we now have all of these things that we've heard growing up projected kind of onto us. And so now we think our worth is associated with how other people perceive us and our beauty. This is a good reminder for women out there if you feel like you're not measuring up to something. And most of the time, there's not even a full list of what we have to measure up to. We just feel like it's not enough. We just feel like whatever we are, it's not enough to whatever will please whoever we're thinking of. And it's not always super specific, which I think is kind of the hard part, is it's never ending, because really the only person that we have to please is like ourselves. And for me, I think God as well, but it's not in the way that we think. And it's not like a performance-based relationship either. So anyways, I digress. But if you need a reminder that your beauty and your worth is not based on what other people say and what other people's perceptions are of you, that is something no one can take away from you. That is yours. And I think we have so much more power to not let anybody help like make us have a skewed view of ourselves. And it's very empowering to think that as women we can start to shape our own beliefs about ourselves in a more positive light with our bodies and take our power back. That I don't really care if people think that I'm conventionally attractive or beautiful, or if my face is symmetrical, or if I'm not skinny enough, or I'm not curvy enough or something. And I don't really care if other people think that I am or am not. That's their perception. And if they can't perceive beauty where it's at, then I don't know what to tell them. And I think that attitude is much more helpful. At least it's been for me. Now when I see or hear people talk negatively about other people's bodies, or even like if they were to comment on my body or say some kind of side comment, I honestly feel more bad. Not like pity, but I just like feel sad that they still perceive people in that way, and that they're focusing on perceiving other people's beauty in a judgmental way versus that's just inherently everyone is beautiful. It's just if you need a reminder, this is your reminder. And take your power back with how you feel about your body. Your worth is not based in your physical beauty in regards to how other people perceive it. That is yours, not anyone else's, and you don't have to feel bad about your body because maybe people make you feel like you have to for some reason, and you don't. The next thing is, I think another big one is your worth does not depend on how much money you make. I think for men, this is probably a big one. I don't know because I'm not really a man, but I know men. And I think this is a major one. And you can see kind of throughout history with when there's a big recession or when people are not making as much money and there's less jobs available, I think a lot of men's worth gets shot, which is very sad. I think of it the same way as women with their beauty, just because that's how we've grown up, and also men with how much money they make and their financial success. And I don't have this attachment to my worth. Like, I don't think that how much I make has anything to do with how worthy I am or that I'm enough, but I know this is probably a big one. I think if anything for me, it's more so has to do with, am I smart enough in the workplace? Am I capable? Am I adequate? Because sometimes I feel inadequate mentally as like intellectually or something. So that's more where it shows up for me, which can be hard if you are in a stressful work environment and you feel like maybe someone's beating you to the punch, or you don't feel like you're quite understanding something as quick as other people. And that can be damaging if you associate that with your worth as a person and your capabilities as a person, versus sometimes someone's just been doing something longer, or that's just the way that their brain works as they learn fast, and you might take a second to learn and understand things, and that's okay. That has nothing to do with your inherent worth as a person or what you have to give to the world and the people around you and your loved ones. And the same thing applies to people that associate their worth with their paycheck and how much money they make. Like for a guy, I would understand if you feel so much pressure to make a lot of money and you feel as though your worth as a man is connected to how much money you make, when I don't think that's fair and I don't think that's helpful. Maybe some people think that's motivating for them, and fair enough, go for it if it is, but I think for some people it can be very debilitating. The same sentiment applies to this one, where if you need a reminder, or maybe if you have a husband or a partner, boyfriend, whatever, and they sometimes stress out about money, maybe just make sure that they know that they're not inadequate, that they are worthy of love and of a peaceful, joyful life, and it's not associated with how much money they make, that they're more than that, they're deeper than that, and that you see that and recognize that. Because I think a lot of people out there don't actually feel like that's the case, and they feel inadequate and they feel like they're never enough, and it's never enough money to satisfy some thing that there's like a line or something that they have to get at. But I think it's the same thing with the beauty standard for women, that there's really not like a full line. So if you're focusing on that, you're going to be exhausted and you're going to burn out and you're going to be angry with other people and yourself. But if you're really focused on that's not where your worth comes from, then you can focus on the other things and the better things in life, while still trying to, be financially free and all that stuff. But it just doesn't go deeper than that. The third thing, I don't even know how to word this, but I have written down that your worth does not depend on your athleticism or your clumsiness. I don't even like the word clumsy, because I feel like clumsy is just sounds like someone's calling you dumb, or like you can't do anything right, or you mess up everything. I mean, that could also just be, if someone calls me clumsy, that's what I think that means, which I don't know if that's actually what it means when they're calling me that. But I just sometimes forget stuff, like I was saying, and I sometimes drop stuff or I'll spill, and I've always been told that I'm like messy, like when I eat and stuff. For me, because I think I have too much of my worth associated with how other people perceive me and how perfect I might appear, or how on top of things and I don't make like a lot of mistakes and stuff. And so when I'm told that I can be messy, it does kind of mess with my confidence. And I don't think anyone sees it as anything really negative. I think it's more just silly and kind of a signature thing because I can be messy. Anyways, I still think calling somebody clumsy is kind of a mean thing to call somebody just because it never has a lot of positive things that go with it. But that's just my opinion. I don't really know. But I do think sometimes if you feel like you're not athletic or if you feel like you're not coordinated or something, that can kind of damage your confidence and make you a little bit more self-conscious, as well as it can stop you from trying new things or trying to get out there and be seen and be known. And if you wanted to go work out, but you're always told that you're not athletic, or you feel like that's just a belief that you have about yourself for whatever reason, then yeah, it can stop you from trying to go to the gym or from running because you feel like that's just not who you are or whatever. So if you needed that reminder, your worth does not depend on your athleticism, okay, or necessarily your strength. All of these things that's a bonus and it's awesome if you're strong, but if you're not for some reason, your worth is not less than others. Okay, the last thing I have is that your worth does not depend on your happiness. This is an interesting one because it applies a lot to people who struggle with depression or with mental illness that kind of takes away just normal feelings of happiness, like every once in a while, or their enjoyment of stuff that they used to like to do. And I just know that when I struggle with depression, or when for some reason it kind of comes back, even if it's seasonal or if it's from my like bipolar depression, it's like a little spout of like intense depression, I just feel less than, and I feel inadequate, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong again, and I tend to shame myself, blame myself, like if I just did more things, like I wouldn't feel like this or something. Even if my lifestyle hasn't changed at all, it's just my mindset has changed, and I start to criticize myself and stuff. So I think this could be a common one for people who struggle with mental health, is that your worth does not depend on how happy you are. And really what I mean by that is if you are struggling with something and you don't feel like yourself, even if you don't feel like you're worthy, or you don't feel like you're adequate or you're enough, it doesn't change the fact that you are, and you'll feel like that again one day where you'll feel like you're enough, and you'll understand that trying your best is enough for that joy, that peace, that freedom that you're looking for, that I think we're all looking for. It's okay that it's a process to get there. Like all of these things that I'm talking about with things that associate with your worth, it's all stuff that just needs to be worked on slowly. It's not like a black and white type of a thing. At least it wasn't for me. For some people it can be. I just always find it to where the most helpful way to start to kind of detach from all of these things that I put my worth so heavily into is noticing, like they always say, like with anything, is just bring awareness to it, understand it, educate yourself about it, and then once you kind of bring awareness and you know where it shows up, then you can sometimes just noticing it can be enough for you to realize that you don't have to really go down that route, and you don't have to choose that brain wavelength anymore. And another thing you can do is just not make it a big deal. Sometimes that's helpful. If you notice that you're maybe have a belief about something, some things might take a while, but some things can just be like a simple, oh, you know what? I don't want to believe that anymore. And then you don't. And sometimes it doesn't have to be this long, crazy process to, I don't know, start to heal or detach from something like this. It can just be small, subtle things, like if you notice if you're watching an Instagram story and it's a girl and she looks beautiful, and you start to like notice that you compare a little bit, and then you start to feel a little bit sad because you're thinking, you know, I'm not as beautiful, or I don't feel as beautiful as whatever. And if you just notice that, that's where you can start to practice the idea of just because someone else looks beautiful doesn't take away from your own. And maybe that's not the healthiest way to think about when you notice somebody else looks beautiful or they look pretty, that it doesn't have to subtract. There's enough beauty to go around. and just slowly start to maybe change your mindset about things, if that sounds helpful. But anywho, most of this episode was just to remind anyone that needed a reminder. And I mean, I only listed 4 things that sometimes we tie our worth to. That's not fair, but there's a long list, like I was saying before, of things that I think we can tie our worth to and get a little bit too caught up in. And that's not fair to ourselves, because a lot of it has to do with trying to feel perfect and enough for, I think, to be loved and accepted as we are. Last thing I wanted to say was, I think a good indicator with how much you have your worth tied into certain things is how scared are you of making a mistake. For instance, if you are somebody that really wants to be like perfect at work, you want to never mess up, you want to be there on time, you want to stay late, you want to be the one that's like, oh, she's got it, she's smart, she knows what she's doing, and that feels good, and that's not a bad thing. And I want to be reliable. I want people to be able to depend on me. But if you're too heavily tied with this perfectionistic mindset, then I think I just think a good indicator is of if it's maybe a little bit too tied up is if you think of making like a little mistake. And if that absolutely terrifies you and makes you like freak out and feel sick and try to deny like that would never happen, then I think, I don't know, there's just some extra rigidness maybe that could be rubbed out to be a little bit more soft. Or you can think of, what if someone doesn't perceive you as beautiful or something, and how much does that affect you and your confidence? Like, does that shoot you way down? And if so, I think maybe that's a good starting point of thinking like, why is it so hard for me to think that somebody might not think that I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it makes sense. Okay, let's move on to Dear Abby. So I got 2 DMs from people, which was weird because they're both Dear Abby questions on Instagram, and they're both asking me about some tips to start a podcast. I would read them both, but they're 2 different ones and they sound the same. But basically, what's my advice to start one, and what are some tips for someone who's starting a podcast who's a little bit more on the quiet side? And my top tips, I'm going to list them out. 1, don't spend a ton of money at first. Slowly start to acquire more and more equipment to make your little setup better, or better lighting if you're going to do video, whatever. But start really simple with just a microphone, a cord, and then a software you can use on your computer to record and edit and post. And you can just post in one place, and then if you want to post more places, you can use I think it's RSS feed. I set mine up for free. No, I didn't set it up for free. It did cost some money, but it's pretty cheap to start a podcast. Now, the more expensive part of it is really just with your time. It takes a lot of time, which everyone can totally do it if you commit, but it takes a lot of time, and you have to stay organized with your files, everything like that. Make that a priority. I'm still learning how to do that. I'm not perfect at it, but it is so much easier if you stay organized with it and treat it like a job. Because that's what I do with my podcast. I treat it like a job. So I show up, I make sure I get everything done on time. I try to have it be organized. I have things listed that I need to get done. And that way it makes it easier and less mental space is being taken up by like trying to remember things that you need to get done. And the third piece of advice would be to really nail down what you want to give to the world and what you want to put out. I would think of the top 2 to 3 words that you'd want your podcast to feel. Like, you want the feeling of 3 things. And then you use those to base your, like, if you want a cover photo, if you want a color scheme, if you want a little intro song. And that really helps start to understand your audience and start to market to your audience, which I'm not good at yet. I'm really bad at marketing. I'm going to get better. But really the only way that you're going to be able to grow your podcast is by marketing. And I am an idiot because I do not do this, but I need to do it better. But that is really the only way you're going to be able to eventually grow into something bigger, is by being consistent, reliable, and then marketing yourself. And in order to market, you have to really understand your audience and you have to understand yourself and what you have to offer. And then the last thing I'll say is just start it. The worst thing that would happen is you buy a microphone, you use the software, you use it for a month, you use a free trial, it doesn't work out, you don't really enjoy it. You're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then and then you feel like you tried it, you didn't like it, and then you can move on. But the best thing that could happen is you fall in love with it and you grow, your podcast grows, you really enjoy what you do. You also get to, I don't know, who knows where it could go. It could go somewhere really big. So don't sell yourself short. And if you wanted to start and have fun, then go for it. Don't be scared of things changing on their way or learning new things. You have to be super open to learning new things and for things to change, because you're going to be learning a lot about how to podcast and also just how the industry kind of works. And just start trying new, different things every once in a while to see what people enjoy, what people like, but don't, change too much of who you are to get there. But I think podcasting is so fun, and it's a really beautiful way that you can curate something and share it with people, and you can create your own little corner of the internet that you can connect with people that are like you. So go for it, be yourself, and if you really want it, then you have to super commit to it, but don't again be scared of learning, making mistakes, making a lot of mistakes, accidentally muting yourself and having to re-record. I've done that multiple times. So get ready for a little bit of a frustrating experience with technical difficulties. Those become very real, but it's all worth it in the end if you really enjoy it. So yeah, that's some of my advice. I would have more, but maybe I can do an episode talking about some of these things, or just post about my podcast and what I use and stuff like that a little bit more. Well, I think that's everything that I had that I can think of to share, but thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to support the podcast, you can you can leave a rating review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also follow me or subscribe to me on YouTube and like and comment. I post all of my podcasts on YouTube. I also post vlogs if you're interested every once in a while. I just posted my honeymoon vlog, and I'll be trying to post more. That's just more of a fun side thing, honestly, to keep track of my life. But yeah, if you want to support the podcast as well, you could write in, or you could text or call the number in the description below to leave a Dear Abby submission. And you can ask whatever you want, and I will answer it however I want to answer it. And hopefully it will be helpful. But I do one of those every single episode, so you can be on the next one if you submit one. Okay, well, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Take yourself out, be kind to yourself, and love you. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들